there is a scenario, and I'm probably going to get some hate for this. I don't mind 100% inheritance tax either. And the reason why I don't mind it is it encourages people not to hoard their wealth, that they give it to the kids early, they put it into charities they're interested in.
Or it's in productive assets in the economy.
Yeah, I don't mind 100% inheritance tax as long as you can gift the money out without there being tax while you're alive.
Welcome to Checks and Balances, brought to you by Lighthouse Financial. I'm Michael Vincent. This is James Blair. And today, what you need to know about inheritance in New Zealand.
We're back in your life. And today, as a financial advisor, one of those moments I get those phone calls and it's mixed emotions, mainly sad, I would say, is going, James, my parents, obviously in most situations, have passed away. I have a large sum of money coming my way or some money coming my way. What should I do?
Yeah, they are really, really tough conversations. And I think one of the things that we always try to do with those conversations is to make sure that if it is a lump sum of money, that the person is comfortable with the decisions that are being made.
I got to say, Michael, when I'm doing like financial plans, doing projections and going, is there any lump sums we're expecting in the future? So I go, well, my parents are, 80. And I was like, look, unless we're pushing little Nancy down the stairs, how about we deal with that when we do it? Sometimes people are too keen on the That sounds horrible.
I know, I've
Sometimes
had those
people are too keen on the inheritance. And I'm like, you a bad person? So anyway, if you come and talk to me about a financial plan, do not talk to me about getting rid of your parents.
I'm judging you. Just know
for
that.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Let's dive into it. I want to do a quick overview of inheritance in New Zealand, James. And let's start with some common misconceptions. So, rapid fire questions. Does New Zealand have an inheritance tax?
No, it does not. And it's really interesting, some of the things that people do where they're like, I need to start getting this money out to the kids before I die. I'm like, no, you don't. There's just some of those. I mean, you must run into it as well with first home buyers, right? And the gifting of money. And people are like, I can only give $37,000 or some weird thing. It's like, no, that doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. We see that quite a bit, with first home buyers or parents willing to pay down mortgages, these types of situations. And it is a weird one around when people think there's a tax in place and they've got to get rid of all this cash straight away. Next rapid fire question, James. What is a warm inheritance and what is a cold inheritance?
A cold inheritance is when you have died and your kids are getting the money. The problem with that is, assume you've lived a long life. You might die at 90 and your kids might be 60 and they've already grinded their whole lives, paid off their mortgage. The money's nice, but it didn't help as much as it could have if it was earlier. A warm inheritance is when you have a financial plan, you know what your income needs are in retirement, when you're going to retire, how much you're going to travel, all of those sort of things. You do the projections and you go, actually, we've still got some money here at 90. Let's give that to the kids now, whether it's helping them pay down their mortgage or
help the grandkids.
Help the grandkids, whatever it might be. They're probably the big things. So I'm a huge fan of a warm inheritance just because cold inheritances don't really help anybody. And you kind of give those sort of Scrooge McDuck vibes.
Yeah, 100%. Now, my next point, many people think that inheritance is just free money, but it does come with responsibilities. The big unforeseen kind of responsibility or issue that it causes is disputes between families, right?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is make sure you have a will in place. One of the big goals is you want your kids to be able to talk to each other after you're gone. And I've certainly seen lots of scenarios where it just completely breaks down relationships, and it's really, really sad because the relationships just aren't there anymore. So I would make sure you've got a really clear will. I had a lady that I spoke to probably 10 years ago, and she had I think 5 kids, and she was like, little Jimmy's helped me much more in retirement than the others. I'm going to give him 80% in the will. And I was like, the other kid's going to hate him.
Yeah.
And you're actually probably doing a huge disservice. If you could do it, you should at least tell the other kids so they blame you and not him.
Yeah.
And she go, nah, I don't want to have that discussion.
Yeah, it is a tough one. I had a discussion with the customers last week actually, where they got offered effectively a loan at a 5% interest rate forever. It was never going to adjust. And on the death of the parents, the loan would be forgiven. They get to keep the money. And they were asking me, is this a good deal? And I said, well, 5% at the moment, probably not a great deal for the next couple of years. Over 10 years, it'll probably work out as being a reasonable interest rate, but are you going to have the loan with interest for 10 years? And we kind of got to the point where actually it stopped becoming about the math and the interest rate, because they were saying, well, look, the brother is the executor of the will. We kind of get along now. Mm-hmm. We can kind of see some issues in the future. And we would actually at least have this money in our hands, and it would be the loan would be forgiven and we'd have it. And I said, well, look, let's say the long-term interest rate over the next 5 years while the parent is still alive is 4.5%. Would I give up 50 basis points a year to have a relationship with my brother after my parent had died? I absolutely would. So I said, my advice is just take the money.
Yeah. I mean, I've spoken to your parents about, like, obviously they love me like a son, like their favorite son. And I've gone, guys, I love that you put me in the will, but you just got to talk to Mike about it. So I don't want it to
they don't want
impact
to have
the relationship. And I'm happy to pay an extra 50 basis points to keep this thing going for all of you.
So speaking of my parents, who are currently in another country at the moment in the UK, because my sister is about to have a baby, what happens if you inherit money or assets from another country, James?
So the great thing in New Zealand is there is no tax on inheritance, like we said. However, if you are receiving money from another country, it depends on what that country's rules are when it comes to getting tax on inheritance.
Yeah.
So, Mike, I think you've got a few examples.
Yeah. So let's say you're in the UK. If the value of your estate is above £325,000, that the part above that threshold will be taxed at a rate of 40%.
Oh.
Yeah, see, you think that sounds like a lot. I actually don't mind an inheritance tax because it is just distributing wealth that is otherwise just going to be pooled amongst a couple of people. So I actually don't mind these.
It doesn't surprise me, Mike, that you would say something like that. Em's giving some funny looks in the background. I actually, funny, I know we're about to talk about some other countries. There is a scenario, and I'm probably going to get some hate for this. I don't mind 100% inheritance tax either. And the reason why I don't mind it is it encourages people not to hoard their wealth, that they give it to the kids early, they put it into charities they're interested in.
Or it's in productive assets in the economy.
Yeah, I don't mind 100% inheritance tax as long as you can gift the money out without there being tax while you're alive.
100%. In Australia, there's no inheritance or estate tax, but there are going to be some capital gains taxes. In the USA, if the total estate is under around 13 million for an individual or 27 million for a couple, if it's under that, then you don't get taxed.
What if it's over?
Yeah, I get taxed.
Okay,
cool.
It's interesting in the UK, it's 300 grand. In America, it's 27 million for a couple. USA.
Shows you about the mindset. We've talked about overseas. Inheriting money in New Zealand, although we don't have a tax, it can come with some costs though, and we'll dive into those after the break. So James, I've got this large sum of money coming in from an inheritance. What should I do?
So obviously it is a large amount of money and you may not have access to that money again in your life. And there is a huge emotional toll with those decisions as well. So if you're not sure what to do, reach out through the Lighthouse Financial website, book a time to talk about a financial plan.
Now back to the show. All right, James. So we don't have an inheritance tax in New Zealand yet, but there are some costs that people need to think about for, legal and administration services. What are some of those costs?
So one that I do run into quite a bit is people go, I don't want to pay a lawyer a couple of grand for a will. So I'm going to go to an online will.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I don't want to say companies' names, but where the cost of the will is really cheap.
$50.
Yeah. But then they have a high cost going forward, potentially a percentage of the estate, which really hurts them. And it's very short-sighted from the individual and creates a huge amount of pain for those that are trying to sell down the asset.
100%, because you think they might actually have to sell an asset. Like the only asset is a house, and you go, oh, cool, I'll get this house. And someone turns around and goes, actually, mate, they signed this thing that said, we'll do the will, but I get 15% of that house. They might have to sell it, liquidate the asset just to pay that invoice.
For sure. So I think there should be the discussion. One is making sure, if we're talking to people with parents here, going, do you have a will? And is it just with a lawyer? What is the lawyer's name? The other thing I would do as well, Mike, is I would talk to your parents about going, do they have like a box at home or on their laptop or something that's got all of their important information? I don't know if, for those that haven't had anybody close to them pass away, there is a huge amount of admin just in terms of like contact, what bank are you with? Who is your lawyer? Who is your financial advisor? Where do I find your loan docs? A whole range of different things. So try and make sure that it's all in a nice, easy place and somebody in the family knows where that information is.
Some of the other costs, look, I mean, the big cost here are the disputes between family members, right? I think only like 50% of Kiwis actually have a will, but sitting down and having the discussion around here's what I want for the assets, here's why I have divvied these up in these ways, have a discussion. It can be a tough call to make, but the tougher call is if everyone's just scrapping through lawyers after.
Yeah, the other one I see as well is when somebody's in full-time care and one of the kids is enduring power of attorney.
Yeah.
And rarely, but sometimes one of the kids abuses that power of attorney for their own personal gain. And that can create all types of chaos as well off the back of it.
Or the parent decides that they should get more, and then the kids think that that person has abused the enduring power of attorney. That is also a common thing that happens, where actually the will is the wishes of the parent. It's just that they decided to divvy it up not equally and people feel ripped off. The other big one, make sure you get a will. Like I said, 50% of Kiwis have a will. If you don't have a will, this will end up in probate, and probate can take a long time. We've seen houses or estates that have taken 3 years to go through probate just to get sorted. And we actually have a customer at the moment, and that's just been sorted for her. So yeah, make sure you get a will. Yep. It can cost you, $800 to $1,500 to get a will, but make sure you get one put in place. It will save a lot of time and money. So, James, let's say I'm on the other side of the equation now, and I have had the lump sum come in. What do I do, mate? Do I go out and buy the Porsche, or do I invest it? Give me some quick advice.
So the big thing is going, depending on your situation, a lot of people, it'll be the largest amount of money they ever have in their life at one point. And you're not going to get that chance again, most likely. Hopefully nobody else passes away. So the same principles of how to build your financial plan apply, right? So you need to know, what are your goals? Where do you want to live? What kind of lifestyle do you want now? When do you want to retire? And do you want to help your kids in the future? And that is all the fundamentals that should impact the decision making. So the fundamentals of, we want to make sure first, if we've got any short-term debts, that like credit cards, we want to pay all of those off. If we've got a mortgage, we want to knock that off. Once we're mortgage free, we can start putting money into shares. If we've got a debt-free home, we can look at investment property. All the same fundamentals apply.
Cool. So with those strategies, you've laid out a pretty quick roadmap there. But if someone's thinking, actually, you know what? I need some help with this, what should they do?
Yeah, just reach out, Lighthouse Financial, come and talk to us about a financial plan. And there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of emotion in these situations, so we can work out what you should do.
Yeah. The key thing here is, have a plan, get the wills in place, make sure the family talks about it. And then if the unfortunate is to happen, you'll have the least amount of negative impact as possible, and hopefully some positive gains off the back.
Awesome. Okay, well, much love to Lighthouse for sponsoring this episode. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Please make sure to give us a review. Give us that like, hit that like button. We will catch you next time.
Cheers.